How to build a religion. Fancy foundings a religion. Keen to reform a flagging faith. Here a few tips on how to attract and retain followers, thus ensuring that your gospel spreads far and wide, affording spiritual solace to as many souls as possible. At the outset, you must realize that success is unlikely if you go wholly against the grain of human nature. Granted, religion is all about forging the perfect man, or at least ensuring that, as far as possible, he lives up to divine expectations. But preternatural power has forged man in such a way that he will swallow some of the ideas about how to achieve this more easily than others. By stressing the right ones, then, you could do a you can do to give a fillip to the painstaking process of perfecting mankind. This is what some temporal powers have been doing of late, when trying to nudge their citizens towards individual choices which are more socially desirable with notable success. You can do the same. This will, however, require that you rein in your dislike for a moment and listen to what ungodly scientists have to say, despite their unremitting efforts to explain away the need of your enterprise. As in the cases of states, your principal concern is to encourage cooperation among your flock. In the long run, groups that cooperate more have an advantage over those whose members are less willing to do so. This also means limiting the number of actual and potential shirkers. People, it seems, are naturally inclined to do this anyway, but you can act them with a few simple tricks. First, you are better off plumping for a personal god rather than some sort of indeterminate life force. Research shows that people who profess a belief in such a deity judge moral transgressions more harshly, which in turn tends to make them more willing to abide by the rules and expend resources on enforcing them. This may be down to a conviction that they are being incessantly watched over by an attentive minder who tallies their contributions and rewards in a cosmic ledger. Speaking of which, incorporating the ideas of just desserts in a fine plan too. Apparently, people are born with an institution to that effect. Just remember to keep misfortunes visited on wrongdoers commensurate with their misdeeds. Otherwise, people will think it unfair and won't bite. No fire or brimstone for littering and such like. A corollary of all this concerns symbolism. Here, you would be wise to ensure plenty of eyes. Even subtle cues of that sort enhance cooperation. This could be because people subconsciously attribute the gaze to a supernatural sentinel or to other people. Human beings are loath to show unwillingness to cooperate in the presence of others too. Either way works for you. Incidentally, the secular state seems to have grasped this long ago, issuing banknotes whence historical figures incessantly stare at consumers and merchants. However, such gentle nudges will only go so far. Sometimes you need to be a bit more hands-on. This is especially poignant in your selection of rituals. Certain constraints on human thought process means that you are faced with a choice between reliance on rare but traumatic experiences like some gruesome aboriginal initiation rites on the one hand and frequent repetitive teaching on the other. Each has merit. Traumatic experiences ensure vivid recollection of everything connected to them, including the identity of the participants. Clearly, they must be rare cause people too much physical and psychological grief and they will do more. If you don't overdo it, though, such events will create a strong bond within group whose members will, as a result, go so far as to lay down their lives for a fellow group member. Collaboration doesn't get any closer than that. Alas, the observe of this is almost automatic animosity towards all outsiders. So, if growing in numbers is your thing, you should probably plump for doctrine rather than trauma. Abstract teachings are, however, less firmly etched into participants' mind. As such, the rituals will need to be repeated more frequently, constantly reinforcing the memories. This has the added bonus of making explicit your official interpretation of faith. In the case of traumatic rituals, each person has a rich interpretation of the seemingly pointless terror they had to endure. Their bond is future strengthened because of the belief, probably mistaken, that all the others construe it in precisely the same way. Taboos are put in place to ensure they don't share their divergent thoughts out loud. That would, after all, bode ill for unity. However, as the ranks of your congregation swell, such proscriptions become progressively harder to enforce. So, orthodoxy needs to be spelled out to limit the scope for doctrinal dissent. The rub is that followers may easily weary of repetition. You will need to strike a balance between being a dull doctrinaire and allowing too much interpretive freedom, with wayward schismatics stirring up trouble. One way to mitigate this threat is to introduce occasional rides which are exciting and memorable, but in a positive way. Since euphoric experiences are less readily recalled than traumatic ones, these will need to be repeated every now and again. Those dreaded scientist claims that once a year is about right. Another option is to let small groups to get on with their things, as the Catholic Church does with the grisly reenactments of the Passion of Christ in the Philippines, complete with nails and crosses. Such rites inject new vim into congregation as a whole and keep the possibly splitists happy. Mind you, all the aforementioned advice will work only if you are truly committed to spreading the word and prepared to settle in it for the long haul. Those pseudo-religious cults preying on human gullibility by promising fast-track salvation may prosper in the short run, at least their founders might. But as with any Ponzi scheme, they will one day tumble. There are only so many knaves around. A religion like yours, on the other hand, harnessing mankind's deep-seated proclivities, will continue to thrive indefinitely. or for until human nature undergoes considerable change, which is unlikely to happen in the foreseeable future. You, or strictly speaking your science-minded posterity, shall inherit the earth.